Then I'm going to go live. This is so exciting every time. All right.
Lydia's background looks beautiful.
She always has the nicest backgrounds.
Thank you. It's wishful, you know, it's wishful thinking.
I had everything ready to go, and then now it wants to not do what I wanted to, but we're still in motion here. Hi, beautiful women and gentlemen.
What do you have, a slow computer?
No, I had everything all ready to go, and then when I went to go in, it wouldn't pop up the live. Now it's going. And Cindy, once it goes live, can you just share it to tag like my page and stuff like that? Like you normally do, just in case while I was thinking of it. We
Yes, we are live.
We are live. Yes, we are live, people. All right. So first and foremost, I want to again thank everybody who is going to be here with us on tonight. I am so looking forward to this conversation. It is National Women's Month, and we have some phenomenal trailblazers with us on tonight. Yes, this is amazing. Because when we talk about this great work that we're all doing, and we talk about it takes a village, then we understand we all have a part to play. And these women that we're going to hear from on tonight have been playing their part for a very long time. And I just can't wait to hear more about their journey, about why they started this work and the impact that they continue to have, and also some tips that they have for those of you out there who are wondering, how do I too become a trailblazer, or how do I support the work that they're doing? Because in fact, it is impacting our communities in a great way, in a positive way. And so for those who don't know me, my name is Latonia Monroe Naylor. I am the co-founder of Parent Villages, a co-founder of Parent Villages. And I just love doing this great work of sharing resources and information with everyone. I'm going to introduce our board at this time so that we can keep everybody posted as to who's who. And then we're going to go ahead and introduce our speakers. We're going to have an update, talk about briefly what some things that Parent Villages is doing. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into our panel and hear some wonderful information from these ladies. So I'm going to start with my left, Tiffany Rufino.
Hi, everybody. Tiffany Rufino. Thank you all for being here with us this evening. I'm the Regional Director for Parent Villages, and I'm happy to be here, excited for this conversation.
Thank you, Tiffany. And Paige.
Hello, I'm Paige Monroe, and I'm also a co-founder for Parent Villages, and I'm also the clerk. And I'm just looking forward to all of this information.
Thank you. And Cindy Gaynor.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am Cindy Gaynor, co-founder and treasurer with Parent Villages. Happy Women's Month. So excited about this conversation.
Thank you. And Michael. Unmute, Michael.
Yep.
I was reading your lips.
Wow, sorry. Michael Kane, a volunteer for Parent Villages, and I met Latonia a little over a year ago, pre-pandemic, and have been feel so fortunate to be part of this incredible group of people, predominantly women. So thank you so much for the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you, Michael. We appreciate your support as well. Thank you. And Shaquita.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shaquita Obanizi. I'm new to Parent Villages, and I'm excited to hear the information.
Yes, Shaquita will be soon. I'm claiming it one of an additional board member that we will have, and I can't wait because her energy already is just glowing. So thank you. And of course, we have to introduce, we're going to start with Lydia. Lydia Martinez, who is the Assistant Superintendent at Springfield Public Schools. Just do a quick welcome, hi, introduction. You don't have to get into your talk yet, but just let people know who you are.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Lydia Martinez, the Assistant Superintendent for Springfield Public Schools, and happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And Yemisi. And you know I can't say your last name, so I'm not even trying. Nope, I can't hear you yet.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Okay, hi. My name is Yemisi Oloruntola-Coates, and I'm presently the Chief Diversity Inclusion Officer at Baystate Health.
Thank you so much. I'm going to practice with you how to say your last name because I love your name, but I refuse to say it wrong. So thank you so much for sharing it. A beautiful soul. And I'm so happy that our paths have crossed. And I look forward to hearing more about you. And Ayanna Crawford, who is also a co-founder of Parent Villages. Yes, it is such a pleasure to have you on the panel on tonight. Let's introduce yourself briefly, please.
Awesome. Well, I'm certainly honored and to be here, and I'm Ayanna Crawford, a mom, and that's it.
Thank you, Ayanna. I appreciate it. I think I introduced everybody that's on the line at the moment. We are live streaming, so I would strongly suggest that you go on your Facebook pages and just share, tag folks so folks can be a part of the conversation that we're having now. And also, if they don't get a chance to watch it now, they can watch it later as soon as they have the ability to do so. And so really quickly, I want to give just a few brief updates. Always do an education update when we have our monthly meetings. And one thing I first want to say is thank you to everybody who answered the call to action. Last month, we found out that the commissioner was going to be making some really important decisions, and we gathered people. And in 2 days, we had over 50 people, professionals, community leaders, officials, parents, students who said, hey, I want to support this letter that we were able to send out to the Board of Education, to the governor, to some of our senators, and also to other officials that we know are really concerned about education. And so what we asked for in that letter was that they prioritize teacher vaccinations, which we did see happen. And I'm not saying it was only Parent Villages. We were one of the groups that were advocating for that. So we're really excited that they answered that request. And we also asked for them to consider either a moratorium of MCAS, and if not a moratorium, then ensuring that they're not going to hold our current juniors accountable if they don't pass the MCAS, because they did give that, take away that accountability from the current seniors and last year's seniors. But unfortunately, our current juniors have not yet had a chance to take MCAS, and we don't want them to not be able to graduate if they're not able to pass it. So we asked for that. That they consider, and we did hear from Chairwoman Peisch that they are definitely talking about that and having those conversations. So I'm so grateful again that we were able to get that word out and even have a conversation with her directly through a state meeting a few days ago. Actually, we were able to talk to her and share our concerns about the MCAS and about these different issues when it comes to our kids getting the support that they need for mental health, as well as the academic supports, because as everybody knows, this last year has been a year unlike any other. And our kids have really suffered the most. There was already a lot of opportunity gaps in learning loss prior to COVID. And as we can imagine, it's only expanded. And not because anybody didn't try, right? It's just the way that it's been. And so I really am concerned about that. And I know that each of you are, as well as moms and as administrators and educators who care about what happens with our kids. And so we're all banding together to ask for things that we know are reasonable and equitable for our kids. So that was a really fantastic conversation to have. And then also, this week has been teachers going back into the building, or staff going back into the building. So far, so good. I've heard some good things. There's a couple of tweaks and nuances, but I'm really excited to say that I have not yet received anybody upset with me that we had to vote for the teachers to be able to come back. It was out of our hands. As we talked about last month, the state threatened us that they would charge us a fine of $1.2 million if we did not, in fact, have our staff go back and have our kids go back. So really, we had no choice. But at least, again, because of that letter and also other advocates, we asked for a waiver and they granted our waiver. So I'm so thankful to our staff and assistant superintendent who's here, was part of that work to really help us to be able to get that waiver, to be able to phase our kids in as best we could. And so I'm thankful for that and what we're going to see happen as far as, you know, our next steps in education. So I wanted to just make sure that I did share that information with everyone. If you are looking for additional feedback or info, please go to the Springfield Public Schools website. I believe the survey for the budget hearings are still available, I think through today. So please go on and fill out those surveys, say what's important to you, what your concerns are, so that as the school committee prepares and as the leaders of the administration prepare for our budgeting process, that we are able to consider what the public is asking for, what they're concerned about. So that concludes my updates. I said that very quickly. If y'all have any questions, you know what to do. Post questions in our Facebook comments or send us an email. Text us if you have our text number, and we'll make sure that we answer those questions for you. Does anybody here have any questions? Okay, great. I like when I don't get questions. That means I must have did a good job, or I talk so fast that nobody knows what I said. So thank you again. And now I'm gonna move on to Tiffany, and Tiffany has some updates for us around some work that Parent Villages has been doing and that she's been spearheading.
Thank you. Thank you. I will try to be brief, though we have been doing a lot. We've been very busy. So in addition to our community iMeet-Up meetings as such, this is right now, we've also been hosting lunch with Latonia sessions. We did a couple one in February, and we have one coming up this month, which is really important. It's for parents around social media, and we'll be sharing information from, it's actually a presentation through the district attorney's office. There'll be a student panel so parents can ask some students questions about social media. They'll be sharing with parents what to look out for and some of the dangers that are associated with it. So keep an eye out for more information on that. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. And we also just wrapped up our focus groups that we were hosting with Baystate for their Family Prosperity and Innovation Community Initiative. Met a lot of new individuals and Springfield residents through that. We're also heavily recruiting for a couple of projects we're working on with Springfield Works and HCC around workforce development programs, a two-generation approach to careers. So making sure that residents who want to go back to work, who have families, making sure that their families are taken care of as they are trying to get back into the workforce. And I'm having little visitors join me right now. Excuse me. So in a nutshell, we've been really working hard to make sure that families know about opportunities that are available in Springfield and can take advantage of them. And in closing, just want to mention that we also launched our Education Matters Scholarship. So we're excited to be able to offer that and get some Springfield seniors additional monies for college. So visit our website. The application is listed front and center there. It's a quick application, easy. So check us out and make sure that you apply and share the information with any seniors that are in your family.
Yes, Tiffany, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and I'll just elaborate off of that part. Yeah, so this is the most exciting time for us. We're celebrating our 3rd annual Education Matters celebration. This is the time of year where we are raising funds because we give away scholarships, $1,000 scholarships, and we celebrate our students. You know, we do, I'm not sure if you've seen last year, we had to get creative and pivot, of course, because we still had to, you know, celebrate our students even more so because a lot of them, or most of them, didn't get the opportunity to have an actual graduation. So we celebrated them. We did a drive up at home celebration with a big check, and we're doing it again this year. So we are definitely looking for sponsors. So if your organization or you know someone that would like to give, and it's not, and keep in mind, this is our biggest fundraiser because it also funds all of our ongoing programming and initiatives throughout the entire year. So that information is coming soon. We're dropping the sponsorship categories. As Tiffany said, we have the scholarship applications ready, so you can spread the word with any high school seniors you have in mind in Springfield. And then we're always looking for volunteers who are looking to give some sweat equity, and my light just went out. So yes, I have to fix my light. But yeah, so at the 3rd annual Education Matters, it's June 5th, Saturday, June 5th at 10:30 a.m.
That is so funny. Your light was like, okay, time for the next person.
It was like a drop of mic moment.
So I'm excited about the event. I don't know if Cindy said this or not, because I was trying to still tag people on my Facebook page, but we are also going to have it as a hybrid event. So we are looking for presidential service. Those of you that want to join us in person, we will have the event at a wonderful facility, which we have not signed a contract yet, so we will not name them until we sign the contract. But I think everybody will be excited when you find out where we're going to have it at this year. And we're also going to still stream online because we think that it's great. And it's given us a lot of reach to a lot of folks that we did not always get an opportunity to speak to due to whatever reason, right? Time, scheduling, whatever. So I'm really excited about this opportunity that we're going to have to share, to fundraise, because you need money to get the work done. No money, no mission. So I am excited about that. And so with that, unless I missed anything, Tiffany or Cindy or Paige, then
we're good.
Okay, so we're getting ready to get into the part that I really wanted to be here for, which is to talk to these lovely women. And as I said before, they are trailblazers in their own right. When you hear their stories of their journey of how they've come to be who they are now, and the fact that they're still, I think, at the cusp of where they're going to be, where their greatness is going to be, because they still have a ways to go before their legacy is completely told. And so with that being the case, I want to go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do, ladies, is ask you a general question just to get you going. And then you have the floor to share what it is that you want to share. And we may ask some clarifying questions at the end. We may ask you, if we get somebody to pop something in chat or whatever, we may ask you additional questions. But other than that, the floor is pretty much yours. And share what you want to share. And don't share what you don't want to share. It's up to you. This is your time. And so we're going to start with Assistant Superintendent Martinez. And I want you to just kind of tell us your journey, where you started, how you got to where you are.
Thank you, Latonia. So my journey actually began as a graduate in the Springfield Public Schools. I went to Westfield State University, where I actually got a Bachelor of Science degree in business. So I was actually in the business world for 10 years, specifically in the travel industry. But there was something missing in my life, and I became a substitute for the Springfield Public Schools. And shortly after I became a substitute, I was asked to take on a long-term substitute job at Bowles Elementary School. And I just fell madly in love with the kids. And I've never turned back. I went back to school to get my master's in education. I became a teacher. I taught at Forest Park Middle School. And then I became an assistant principal over at the High School of Science and Technology. I was principal of Chestnut Accelerated Middle School. I became a senior administrator for the district because I always knew that there was something more to learn. It's like when you're a principal, you know, when you get in a job, you always think that there's something on the other side that you're missing, that you need to learn, right? Because it's all about the children in the end. It's all about making sure that you're advocating, that you're bringing equity, that you're really working with your community and to make sure that the children have what they need. And I always believed that I would go back to being a principal because that was actually a job that I absolutely loved, being principal. And so, but then I became the assistant superintendent, and never in 1,000 years did I ever dream that I would be an assistant superintendent. It was never kind of like in my reach. It was never what I knew. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I come from a very humble family. And so I was the first one to graduate from college in my family. And since then, you know, a lot of my siblings have followed and our children. But the reality is, and what I want everybody to always know is, you never know where the journey is going to take you, but don't be afraid to follow it, because, you know, you may succeed and you may fail, but if you don't try, you don't know which one it's going to be. So I just, you know, I'm all about the children. Everybody knows I get excited about the kids and I love the kids, and I do what I do because I just love to see the kids. I just love to see them. I love to see them think, and I love to hear what they're saying. And, you know, even the sassy ones I love, because they all have a message, because they all have a voice. And so it's really important to hear their voice. And so that was kind of my journey to where I am now. And I'm just very excited to be the assistant superintendent of Springfield. And I always want to hear everybody's voice. So please let me know what you're thinking out there, and how we can help. And if there's any children listening, anything you need, we're here for you. Our job is to be here for you. We have no other job. It's to educate you, because education is the way that you're going to open those doors. But remember, go through the door. Don't be afraid. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing your story and your journey. A lot of times when people see people at the top, right, they don't know the struggle and the process that it took for them to get there. Can you share what are some of the challenges that you endured, or some of the process that you had to go through that made you who you are? And as you know, and we joke about this sometimes, Lydia, that, you know, people know Lydia is not the one to be trifled with. They just know that she's not the one to be trifled with. And so, and it comes from a process, right, of kind of knowing who you are and being confident in who you are. Can you share that with us?
Yes. And so, you know, LaTonya, it also starts with what I was saying, right? You don't know where you're going to be. It's funny because I often quote Miley Cyrus, you know, when she said, forget the haters, somebody loves you. And so those people that love you, you need to concentrate on them and then just keep going forward. And for me, as a Latina woman, a woman of color, the expectations are different, and we all know that. And so, you know, I can say something and some of my counterparts can say something, and it's always taken differently. When I say it, it could be the same exact words, the same exact everything. And yet if I say it, it's taken one way, and when others say it that are not people of color, it's taken in a whole different way. So you always got to have your A game. You always got to know what your surroundings are, and you always have to really know what's happening. You have to be informed. And again, it goes back to education, right? Because education is not just formal education. Education is about knowing what's going on. Just like when LaTonya, you were talking about, and Tiffany, and you and Cindy, you guys were talking about what's going on. I was writing it all down, because these are some of the things that I didn't know. I heard about parent villages, but I really didn't know what your mission was. I really didn't know what you ladies were doing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, scholarships. They're asking for money. We need to contribute money, because anytime that you can get a scholarship for a child, you open, again, another door that perhaps couldn't be open. And so my struggles, you know, my mom and my dad neither graduated from school at all. We came from Puerto Rico in a very early age, and we've always lived, you know, we moved a lot. I actually went to Holyoke Public Schools for elementary, and then moved to Springfield to go to middle and high school, where I graduated from here in Springfield. So the struggles are real out there, but, you know, they couldn't give me a lot, but they gave me the freedom to be educated, and they made sure that every day I had clean clothes. on my back, and that I had those books ready to go. And so, you know, I could tell you stories, but you don't want to hear them. Just know that those stories are what make you, and we all have stories. So I hope I answered your question, Latonia.
You did. And I love what you said about the optics of when we say certain things as women of color, right? And that's why I said we joke, because we know that we have to do what we have to do. And so people often take it the wrong way when we're just trying to do the right thing. And so I appreciated you sharing that and digging into like that philosophy. I love the quote, Miley Cyrus. I never heard that quote before, so that was pretty cool. So I'm going to move on to Yemisi, but I will be back, Lydia. I will be back. So Yemisi, can you please share with us your journey and how you got to where you are as a well-respected woman in the community, and somebody who literally, you showed up one day and I was like, she's somebody we all need to know. So share, please.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Perfect. Well, I really appreciated your question, Latonia, and I really appreciated what Lydia shared. There's some similarities in a lot of ways. I come from an immigrant family from Nigeria. You know, as any immigrant family, they have a vision of what they want for their children. And, you know, growing up, I grew up most of my life in New York, and I went to Hofstra University. And at the time, I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I actually interned at Miramax Films, and I wanted to do PR. And at the time when I went to Miramax, and this is a true story, I forgot the gentleman that's now in jail because he did a lot of sexual assault. I actually saw him in person at 18, 19 years old. And I saw how rude and nasty he was to people. And I said, this is not the industry that I want to be. I'm not going to sell my soul to be ridiculed that way, because I know who I am. And I think it's important. My parents taught me a lot about my Nigerian identity, and that that you come from greatness. And so when I come in a room, it's not about overpowering anyone. It is a humble queendom, if you want to say, where you are humble because I'm willing to learn and engage and to collaborate, but at the same time, I know who I am. And I think that really has set me apart in major ways in my life. And so at that time, when I went to Hofstra, a friend of mine told me about a job working in Japan. So she was working in Japan, and I love the world, and I call myself a global citizen. And I said, you know what? I'm going to apply to this job. And I applied to the job, and I got it. And then the reason why I did it was, I'm a Black woman, that most times you're not going to find a Black woman who said they lived and worked or speak Japanese. One thing that is important for people of color to do, step out of your comfort zone. We tend to try to stay within what we know and what we're comfortable. I want to do things that stretches me beyond and that opens up opportunities that I can't even imagine. And so working in Japan for 2 years, I happened to work for the Japanese consulate, got married, moved to Florida, and then went and got my grad degree. And I wanted to be an ambassador, a diplomat. That was where my journey was going to be. And you start having kids, you know, life comes, and my professors was like, if you're going to become an ambassador, you need to move to New York or where where the international world is happening, not in Florida. And so that's when I entered healthcare. And at the time, I got the job as a supervisor of language services because I spoke multiple languages. But at the time, I've never held a supervisory role. So the woman said, you have a wonderful, resume in terms of your academics and your experience in Japan, but you have no leadership experience. I can't give you the job. So I was devastated. because here I am, a mother of one child. My husband was the main primary giver at the home. And I said, I couldn't take that no for an answer. I knew this is where I needed to go. So I went home, wrote an email and said, I may not have had the title of leader, but here is where I was a leader. And she called me and I got the job. And that's when diversity, equity, inclusion started for me in healthcare. So imagine if I would have just taken that no, where would that have led me today? So it's important as women, particularly women of color, but women too, don't take no for an answer. If it's truly yours and you truly want it, go for it. And that's upon many things that I can share around stories about how I was able to get where I am today.
Thank you, Yemisi. And I just want to bring to folks' attention, I had to go back in the gallery view because Yemisi's picture that didn't have her face talking was showing up and I wanted to see her face talking. So in case anybody is wondering what happened, that is what happened. But I want to ask you the same question that I asked Lydia, the second question about the process of going from that beginning place to where you are now. Can you share with us, you know, and I know you gave us some of those challenges, but how that happens to a woman internally and makes them who they are to even have the confidence to call back and say, hey, oh, by the way, I know I'm the person for this job. I'm going to tell you why. You know, what happens to a woman to bring them there?
That's a great question. You know, as I said, you know, the way I was raised is just like my name, you know, in the Yoruba culture, names is very powerful. We name our children for a reason. And my name, Yemisi, means God has set apart with honor. So think about that. You know, when you're saying my name, you're saying God has set me apart with honor. When you are attributing things that are positive to your psyche, you know, it starts to manifest itself. So I'm a believer of faith and a believer in God. And, you know, I've had some challenges in my life. That's for sure. But one thing is, even when I feel like the end is going to come, or even though I feel like it's not possible, I bring that, what that is about me, my name. You know, I'm set apart with honor. So I'm determined to get this. And so, you know, it all started when I lost my mom at a young age. You know, I don't have a family, extended family here in this country. Everybody is in Nigeria, other parts, and I'm the oldest of four. And I was working in the supermarket, you know, doing the checkout, taking care of my three siblings, cooking, trying to do my homework and get into college. Like, you know, the college that I got accepted to, which was in Chicago, I couldn't go because my mom passed away. I had to now stay behind and take care of my siblings. You know, you would think that when you have things that you have a vision of and it doesn't really necessarily happen the way you see it, you know, like I told you, I said I wanted to be a diplomat and ambassador. I wanted to travel the world. Well, it didn't exactly happen the way I saw it. But then what a wise person told me, that even though you may not be living across the globe as that diplomat and ambassador, you are a diplomat and ambassador in your role. You are speaking on behalf of people all over. You know, you're having a huge impact in getting their voices heard and systems changing. So that's diplomacy. That's ambassadorship. And so one thing that I've learned and I am learning is about reframing the picture, right? Sometimes we need to put a different frame because we're stuck with what we think should be, but that's not where God has destined us to go. There's another frame for you, another opportunity. And I had to get over that because sometimes I get stuck with, this is what I want, or this is how I envision myself. But what I may envision may not be what's best for me to get where I need to go. And I tell you, ladies, I have been underpaid and overworked. And to see myself rise and continue to grow, it is because of that tenacity within myself. We need to believe believe in ourselves, but we also need to lift up others as well. Don't forget to lift up other people behind you. Just like I had 50 million women and men who carried me through, I'm doing it, I'm paying it forward as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I'm over here. Wish I could be snapping and everything, but this is, y'all get me all excited. So I'm gonna move on to Ayanna at this time, and I'll be back. Yemisi. I want all of you that are here, any questions that you have, please get them prepared, because I don't want to be the only one that has the questions I want to ask. If anybody's watching live, because we do have a nice group of folks that are watching us live at this point, anybody has questions, please send them on over. We would love to hear from you and know that you are out there enjoying this conversation as much as we are. So Ayanna Crawford, can you share with us your journey? I know your journey a little more than I know the other two ladies' journey, because we are friends as well. But I absolutely would love for you to share with everyone else your journey.
Wow. First of all, let me just say kudos to Parent Villages for what you do in the community. Kudos to you beautiful ladies on the panel for what you do in your own right. And kudos to all the women for Happy Women's History Month, for everything that every woman does to sort of take care of their families, their community. And I'm just a little part of what we as women do. And so I'm just honored to be here, to tell you the truth, frankly, and just astonished by the camaraderie and the love that we as women always want to uplift each other. And it just shows in what you all have said. And so thank you so much, Cindy and Tiffany and Paige and Latonia, and of course the panel. So with that, my journey, wow. So I was actually, I'm going to go back to childhood. So I was born, and this is a new nomer for me that I don't think people know, but I was born in New London, Connecticut. And so my father was in the Coast Guard. He, and we lived literally on the base. And so I had an opportunity to sort of learn about that sort of lifestyle, if you will, as a young child. I was born at Noble Hospital in New London, Connecticut. I went to the beaches, Ocean Beach. That was my, I just forever love Ocean Beach. And so, so that's sort of my sort of beginnings. And my mother, her family was here in Springfield. She was a native of Springfield. And so we then came back to Springfield. And so I went to all the local high schools, local elementary. I went to the colleges here. And found sort of my niche, if you will, in education, became a teacher, also worked in a little bit of nonprofit world as well, but always had sort of my mom voice behind me, encouraging me every step of the way, giving me that reassurance that, try it, you never know. And so I had an opportunity to work at MCDI, which was a vocational training program for about 8 or 9 years. I was a GED instructor. And so I'm not sure how many of you know that, but that was an interesting world for me to be in front of adults. And I'm sort of this young college student that just graduated, and I've got these older adults I'm trying to, help pass this GED. And so I did that for a little bit, and then decided that I really wanted to work more closer to younger children. And so had an opportunity to work in our local public schools here in Springfield. And of course, I'm a product of Springfield Public Schools. So I thought it was just a great match to be able to do that. And then, of course, moving on in my world in nonprofit, worked for some of the nonprofit organizations. And then, of course, having an opportunity to just do some community work. I think that is how I sort of connected to Latonia and the team with the work that I do in the community, because I really have a passion, for working and helping, and as always, people say to me, you really, you're behind the scenes. And I feel as though that's my place sometimes, to just be able to be encouraging and be a place marker for other people, and so I thrive on helping, I thrive on just being in a place where I can help others. And so that's some of the pieces of who I am, and having sort of the great role model in my parents, both my mother and father, there for me always. And so, and then of course, being a mom, being a single mom and wanting to always make sure that I'm doing something as an example to my children, because they see me. They don't only see me in my work, but they see me in my community work. So I always want to be an example to them, good, bad, or indifferent, but wanting to be a positive influence on them as they move in their journey in their life. And so that's sort of me, I guess.
Well, I'm gonna, people may not know this, but Ayanna likes to lift everybody else up. So Yemisi, she took it to heart. The lifting other people, she's done it. She was actually one of my campaign team members when I was running for a school committee, and no political knowledge at all. I had one political guru who stood with me and gave me advice after I proved myself to him. And that is the honorable and prestigious Raymond Jordan. Other than that, everybody told me I was gonna lose. And I had no chance of winning because it was my first time. And although I did get some advice from folks, they all prefaced it by saying, you're probably gonna lose this time because nobody wins the first time. But she was there, and Cindy was there, and my mom was there. And they are the ones that pushed me to just do the work and find my path, even though the resistance was there. So I said that to say that Ayanna is that kind of soul. So in her humility, she has not stated what she is currently doing and how she's gotten there to that place to be able to do what she's currently doing. So Ayanna, can you share with us, what are you currently doing?
Yes. So thank you so much for allowing me that space to be able to do that. So for all the things that I've done in community work, education, has really led me to this opportunity that I have now. So I'm the new legislative aide for the local state representative, Orlando Ramos, for the 9th Hamden District here in Springfield. And so it's certainly an extension of that community work, working with constituents, working with people in our community, helping to be a resource, helping to find an answer, being on calls late at night on the weekends, trying to figure this stuff out for families. And so I feel as though I'm on cloud 9 in heaven, because this is like so rewarding to be able to help someone and know that what you've done has really impacted not only them, but their families, is just amazing. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to be in this position, and also to be able to learn from those that have been doing this work for many, many years. When we talk about legislation, when we talk about communities of color where there may be a lack of representation, it's good to have voices and people in spaces that look like us, so that we can then not only hear it, but able to bring it back to our community and say, hey, LaTonya, I really need you to work on this. This is something that you've got to do, or vice versa. She lets us know what she needs, and so that we can be an advocate and a voice in these spaces. And so I'm just honored that I have the opportunity to work with someone that not only understands diversity and inclusion and working with families of color, but that we are working in tandem and together to bring about some change, if you will, at the State House. So I'm excited to work in this capacity and bringing back what they say, the State House back to the community. So super excited.
Thank you, Ayanna. And like I asked the other two beautiful women on the panel, can you talk about that process of the beginning stage to where you are now? Because you don't just pop up and become a legislative aide or have the connections that you have to the resources that you're able to help bring into our community. So it takes a process to get there. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. Growing up, my mother was always doing community work, always volunteering. And so she always had me with her. And so I know by watching and modeling my mother's interactions with people and spaces, I was able to glean sort of that knowledge about what to do and how to do, and just being authentic, being real, not being showboating, not being, it's all about me, but really getting in the depths of the work and saying, you know what, I'll volunteer, I'll help. And I always wanted to do that. And so I would just stick my hand out or stick my foot out and say, you know what, I'll volunteer and help do that. I'll organize that. I'll help, And so I think by the work that I've done in the community has given me the chance to elevate to different spaces because of the work that I was willing to do no matter what. So there wasn't a price tag on what my service was for the community. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And I think service above self is so important that we have to consider doing something, because when they talk about what is your rent to be here on earth, it is your service to others. And so I pride myself on trying to be a service-led individual so that I'm helping and being in spaces that potentially will open up doors so that all of us can walk in there together. So it's not about me. It has never been about me. It's about opportunities for all of us to be together and have ways that we can shape the next generation. So I believe that volunteerism for me, particularly in terms of how I was able to get to this spot, and just listening, being patient and gleaming from others that have had the skill set that do the work that I'm doing. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Minerva, and work in the work she's done, all this different community leaders in our city, watching and gleaming from them. So, being those folks that have been examples to me has really shaped and helped me to grow, to get into these spaces and to have this type of position, because you don't just get it overnight. And so I'm very grateful that the work leading up to here at this point has led me to this opportunity. And so I'm just forever grateful. And so looking forward to, again, just being a servant leader in our community.
Thank you, Ayanna.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing to Ayanna. There's just one thing that I have not heard from her. And I know it's not a secret because I've seen it on Facebook. Aren't you running for something right now? Can we hear about that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And that's so interesting that you bring that up, because again, I really would like to be behind the scenes and help someone else. I really would. I'm going to be honest.
You are so humble. You are so humble. But
I just want to be able to help. And so I think that some of the things that I've learned, some of the skill set that I've learned will be able to help with the governing body for the school committee, which our illustrious, honorable Latonia Naylor sits on. And so I just want to be a help. And so to help further with our children and our governing body, I just want to be a help. And so I believe being a resident here for so many years and being a former school teacher will be able to help our school district, because we need folks that want to see our school districts shine. We want to be a world-class school district. And so I just want to be a help. And so that's why I've decided to take my hat off, if you will, or put my hat in the race and run. And so I'm willing to sacrifice and do what I need to do in order to get there. So I just want our children to succeed, and I want to aid in that with things that I've learned. So thank you.
Thank you, Ayanna. And so I want to make sure we like to start on time and end on time. So we are going to be ending around 7 o'clock because that's what I told you all, and I want to keep that. But before we do, I wanted to see if anybody else had a question that they wanted, any burning questions, because I always have questions. But I wanted to relinquish the floor and see if anybody had a question for a specific panelist, or that all of them can answer, and so that we can hear from each of our panelists before we close out at 7. And before we do finalize, I will kind of go back and do another round for you all to have closing remarks before we officially close out.
I'll ask a question. first of all, I'm very humbled to be here and to be able to witness all of your stories and your journeys, especially Lydia and Yemisi, because I've worked with you both personally and have looked up to you both, and definitely with Ayanna, I've known you for some time. So just thank you again for your time and being here. And my question is, what would you say to young women, say like middle, high school age, who are sort of grappling with owning and being proud of their identity? You know, as women of color and our young women, you know, at that stage in life, going through different changes and figuring out who they are. What would you say to sort of encourage them in just owning who they are? For anyone who wants to answer.
Well, I'm happy that it's hard because I do it all the time to our young girls. And what I always tell them is be you and go for it. Simple. Be you, go for it. Do not be afraid. Like I said earlier, you're not going to know how far you're going to journey unless you begin the journey. Just go for it. And so that's what I actually always tell them.
Yes, I would agree with what Lydia said as well. And one of the things that I would add to it is know thyself, know your history, because you're not going to find it in the schools. You're not going to find it in the libraries of the school. Unfortunately, I know since George Floyd, things have changed. There's an awakening, and one of the beauty is when you know of the stock and the value of your history, of your roots and your identity, you can show up in this world like you have a crown, invisible crown on your head. And that is how I was raised from my parents, where they taught me and embedded in me my identity. And I tell you, I am so grateful for that as a young person going through it, and now having girls, 2 girls, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old boy. I'm able to instill that knowledge in them. And if you see them, they are very proud of who they are. And they know thyself to the point where they're teaching others around them. And I think that's important. Know your history. Know your history.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I agree with both of the ladies so far. I think also to add to that is just that you don't need permission to be great. You don't need permission to be great. And so just go out and just do what you think is best. And so you don't need permission. You have an idea, work on it, you know, and get other people that have similar skill sets and work on it together. And so that's what I would tell young adults, young girls, to just do it. You don't need permission. You don't have to go back and ask somebody, is it okay? No, it is okay because you came up with the idea. So go do it and let us know how we can help you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a really good question. And I appreciate all of your responses. It was good stuff. So I guess we have room for one more question.
Yes, I have a question. It's actually a perfect segue. So with all of you women being powerful women of in your positioning and knowing, you guys talked about, you ladies talked about all the different pathways and, you know, what brought you to where you are now. How did you handle, or how did you respond to microaggression in the workplace? And I feel like this is important question for, especially for young professionals, where, you know, the first instinct may be to react emotionally versus educationally. So, or in an educational sense. So I would love to hear each of your responses on that.
I would like to respond. You know, I agree with you about we have to respond tactfully, and that's a loaded word, right? You know, in terms of how do you express that? You know, I recall a time, and the best way I can say is in a story, is in an actual experience. And this was early on in my career, where I was in college, I was working in this corporation, and the woman said, I'm unable to do my work. Okay, so she said, I'm unable to do my work. And then it was told to the higher up. What was happening was she was creating barriers for me to do my work. And so my numbers weren't as high because she would throw things at me versus she wasn't doing that to the others. And so I got called into the office. So you can imagine being called into the CEO office. I'm 21, 22 at the time. And the person said, we're being told that you're not able to do your work. And because of that, you're not going to be able to continue in this role. And I said, hold on for 1 second. How do you know that what the person said is accurate? I said, why don't you do this? Change my manager. And they said, huh? I said, change my manager. Then you'll get your answer. Now, mind you, I'm 21, 22 years old, saying this to an executive male and saying that they're wrong. Now, that was bold. It could have gone either way. I could have been fired or they could have taken on the challenge. They decided to take the challenge. They put me with another woman of color, a Latino woman who was phenomenal. My numbers were off the roof. Because why? I didn't have the barriers. So I went back to them and I said, who's the problem? Me or her? Now, how did I handle that? Not emotionally, because at the end of the day, I know my worth. And what happens with microaggressions is they know your worth too. And what they want to do is trip you. Don't let them trip you. Always think 10 steps ahead. And I have a lot of stories like this. And especially in the work that I do with diversity, equity, inclusion, trust me, I have seen it all. And that is the one thing I would say, tactfully, educatively, but do not let them trip you up, because that's what the microaggression, because they see your brilliance and they don't want you to shine.
Wow. That's all I can say is wow.
Yes, that's amazing.
Thank you for that story. It's very powerful and there's so many layers. I'm over here texting Cindy like, we need to talk to her again.
Have a whole nother
Lydia's probably
conversation.
taking notes too. Like, wait a minute. Let's talk about this again. Do Lydia or Ayanna, do you want to answer that question before we go into our final closing words? I can only imagine the stuff that y'all have had to deal with.
I would just say that was, she hit it right on the head, just be knowledgeable and know your stuff, because when they try to trip you, it's again, back to what I said, that education, it doesn't always have to be the formal education, is knowing what's happening around you. That's going to get you through those microaggressions, because believe me, they happen more often than people can even imagine when you're in certain positions. And so just know your stuff and always be prepared, always.
Yeah, that's so true. I believe the same thing. I think, that's really interesting, because I know that's happened to probably a lot of women in particular, because there's sort of this rival or competition or jealousy that kind of settles in. And so I know that those things are very attached to sort of your work piece. And so I think just making sure that you are clear in your skill set, being always 10 steps ahead, if you will, being able to think through problems and solve them, be able to work in collaboration and teams, and really be able to voice your position very clearly, because what happens sometimes is that people will restate, right, what you've said, and you're sitting back saying, wait a minute, I just said that. And so that is a real issue, and I've seen it more times than not. And so just being very clear about who you are, your skill set, and understanding that you know, you have a voice and you have to be able to articulate that and see sort of what's happening and be able to bring that to someone's attention. Because I think sometimes people do things because they're trying to get to that next level. You know, there's also, you know, that promotional piece where I've got to outwork everybody because I want to be seen. You know, some people do that too. So there's a lot of thin lines between that piece too as well. But I think certainly, you know, being clear on what your skill set is and what you do, and shining bright amongst all the folks that, you know, sort of want to pull you down or not acknowledge your gifts and your talents.
Thank you so much. I, again, have enjoyed this conversation. I wish we can go on for like another hour because the wisdom is real and the empowerment, the energy is just overflowing into the little Hollywood square boxes. It's just amazing. And I think, you know, as I reflect on, each of you have said different things that have really touched me in a different way and widening even my perspective. And I consider myself somebody to be very knowledgeable. But I think, you know, the goal of seeking to learn something new every day, seeking first to understand and to be understood, you know, those things are just so invaluable as leaders. And I see that in the work that you all do. I see the work ethic that you have. I see the passion for the work that you do. And primarily why we thought of you three, because it was evident that we would definitely be able to have an authentic and fruitful conversation on tonight. So I am just thankful that you accepted our offer. And I hope that you will continue to be a friend of Parent Villages. Please do share about our scholarship opportunities. Please do share about our brunch. We'll make sure that we get that information to you. Tiffany, can you post our membership form in the link real quick too, as I'm thinking about it before they leave us? Because if you know anybody else that might benefit from, you know, being a part of our conversations or the work that we're doing, we love to share more about what that work is. And so as we get ready to close out, I'll continue my cycle. I'll start with Lydia and then Yemisi, then Ayanna to have any closing or parting words as we get ready to close out.
I just want to say thank you. This was really amazing. It was such an honor to meet you guys, to hear other women's stories, especially women in our community that really are immersed in the work that we're doing here in Springfield. It's just been an honor. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I share in Lydia's words. It was an honor. I mean, I just want to thank all of you. I got to work very closely with Tiff, but I really appreciate how Springfield has embraced me. You know, I'm the new kid on the block. I've only been here 2.5 years, and you guys have really embraced me, and I'm very humbled and honored for that. And I don't take that lightly at all. So I'm willing and waiting and will continue to do the work, but I am most appreciative for bringing me into your family. So I appreciate that very much.
Well, I want to say also thank you to Parent Villages, the co-founders, LaTonya, Ms. Page, and Cindy, and of course, their regional director, Tiffany. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and Michael, and all the other board members for Parent Villages. And also I want to give greetings from State Representative Orlando Ramos from our district office here in Springfield and from our State House. Whatever we can do for Parent Villages, we want to be able to be there for you. And so please consider us a partner with you as you move forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies, did I miss anything? Cindy, Shaquita, Tiffany, Paige, Michael, did anybody want to say anything? Okay, good. I don't want to miss out. So thank you again, everybody who's listening, tuning in. Thank you for sharing with us and listening, asking questions. Well, I asked all the questions, but ask most of the questions. But we thank you for your love, because we did see the post, and those of you who are saying such great things about these women and the work that they're doing, the work that we're doing, we so appreciate it. We will make sure that the membership form is also in the chat for Facebook for anybody who wants to join in. It's a free membership. It's just for you to get more information on what we're doing and just to keep updated on any of the projects or events that we have and resources that we have to share. So with that, everybody have a good night and take care and God bless.
Thank you. Good night.